Welcome to Cents and Sensibility, where we like to talk about money without the stress. My name is Chris. I'm here with my good friend.
I'm Phil.
So in today's episode, we're gonna be focusing on saving and, your goal for that, right? Whether it's building an emergency fund, planning for a vacation, or even saving for that big purchase, the truth is saving doesn't have to be slow. With a few smart strategies, you can accelerate your progress for saving and get to your goals faster. So let's go ahead and break it down. All right, so number one, what I like to tell people is honestly, and I'll preach this till the day I die, is automate to increase your savings, right? Automation is your best friend when it comes to saving. It takes the decision making out of the question, or even just the equation of saving in general, and even small increases over time can make a big impact, right? What do you think about that, Phil?
Yeah, Chris, you're absolutely right. Automation is key. I know we had a viewer that set up automatic transfers of $75 every 2 weeks into their savings account. And after 6 months, they increased it to $85. And by the end of the year, they saved over $2,000, even without even feeling the pinch. And a good supporting tip for this, guys, is to start with what you can afford, even if it's just $10 a week, and you increase it gradually. The small bumps add up over time, and that makes it feel like it's not overwhelming and you can fit it into your budget.
That's honestly a really great tip, is just essentially just start small, right? And make gradual increases, right? So I like to tell people, something to think about too, is just think of it like giving yourself a little bit of a pay raise, right? When you make those gradual increases, right? But instead of spending that money, you're just saving it for your future self. Which brings us to number two, man. And for me, this one kind of hits a little home because I hate having clutter, but declutter and sell what you don't need. I feel like honestly, most of us have items and like clothes and other little, knickknacks just lying around that we don't use, whether it be clothes, electronics, furniture, whatever. Selling them is an easy way to like boost your savings without like cutting into your budget, right? Because people just come pick up your stuff that you don't want and it's out the door, right? So a good example of this was a friend of mine and myself. We had like, I think 2 or 3, maybe 4 like flat screens that we didn't even need. And we wanted to kind of have like a dude's weekend and plan for a trip. So we ended up selling said TVs and it came out to like, we made like, I think it was like $800 or $900 in a single which was crazy, which obviously went straight to our kind of like boys trip fund and completely worth it. And when it comes to things like this, I like to tell people a good tip is start with things that have the most value, obviously like electronics or branded items like an old Louis bag or something that you don't use, but obviously use platforms like Facebook Marketplace, eBay, Poshmark, OfferUp, things like that, to reach more buyers. And also something to think about too is just not only does like selling declutter your home, right, but it also turns like things that you've forgotten about into like real money towards your goals, right? And when you're saving, I think leveraging everything you can is really, really fucking important.
That's a great point, Chris. And that brings us to number 3, guys, which is take on a short-term side hustle. So a side hustle doesn't have to be a long-term commitment. Even if it's just a few months of extra work, that can give your savings a serious boost. So for example, I have a friend that started driving just on Uber Eats and DoorDash on the weekends, and he was able to make an extra $400 a month for 3 months. And he used that money to fully fund their emergency savings account just so he was secure if anything ever happened.
That's honestly a solid example. I mean, I think a lot of people do that. It's obviously easy to get into as well. But a tip I like to give, tell people as well is like look for gigs that really just fit within your skills and schedule, right? So like, if you're free, if you're able to freelance, do freelance work. If you're good with kids or whatever, maybe babysitting or even pet sitting can be all flexible choices, right? Very short term in ways to get extra cash. And something to think about too is just think of side hustles as like temporary bursts of effort that can fast track your savings without really taking over your life, which is, I think, a very big thing to think about. So what's your biggest saving goal right now? Share how you're working towards them in the comments below. I'd love to hear your tips and maybe feature them in a future episode. And just remember, saving money doesn't have to feel like some slow or impossible task. Just remember to automate your savings, sell items that you don't need, and consider short-term side hustles to give your goals a major boost, because small steps lead to big changes. And as always, if you like this episode, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button and share it with someone who's trying to save for something big. And don't miss our next episode where we'll talk about how to stop living paycheck to paycheck once and for all. And as always, keep your cents and sensibilities in check.